No, do you? Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Paul Hutton.
Thanks, Kevin. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
I feel I have an advantage here because I have a microphone. So I guess we cooked up this idea over lunch over the last few months or so, and I am actually a former software developer. I did spend the first half of my life involved with software development projects, and I worked my way through different roles as a coder, as a tester, which I usually try to avoid, as a data architect, as a business analyst, as a project manager. So I was able to see things from lots and lots of different perspectives. And I've been in Singapore for 26 years, which I realise is probably longer than some of you have been in Singapore. I came here when I was maybe in my late 20s or so. I've been here all this time, initially developing software and working with a company that was doing software implementation, and then after that I've had some different career changes, and right now I'm running a consulting company, and what we specialise in doing is helping teams to just get better at developing their products. Digital products, okay? If I say digital products today, I mean software products. But we don't just work with our clients on software products, we help business teams as well. And at the end of the day, it's all about enhancing communication and collaboration, which is a key element of today's program. I haven't exactly done the timing marks for this program, so we'll either finish at around 7 p.m. Is that okay for everyone? No, it's not okay for me either. So we'll finish on the dot at 6. Okay, because time boxing is a really good idea. Or maybe 6:05 if people are super interested in asking questions. Or we might finish slightly early. Is that a problem? If we finish slightly early? Okay, I'm getting the fantastic. So, look, any presentation should start with a purpose and an outcome. And so I just want to run you through this just to make sure we're all on the same page. When we spoke about this, and I started to envision it in my mind and think, well, this random Anglo guy comes over and talks to you about software requirements for a couple of hours. What's the value you're going to get out of it? And from my experiences, what I wanted to share was raise your awareness of how to create world-class products. Now, there's some great stories about world-class products out there. And they did things a little bit differently than what most organisations are doing. So let's talk about that today. And then identify some major mistakes to avoid. And my assumption is when you get out into the workforce, you're all either going to be software developers, or you're going to be testers, or you're going to be designers, or you're going to be involved in in understanding the requirements and analysing the requirements. And every single role and responsibility is important because it's a team sport. It's not a one-person endeavour if you want to create something great. It involves a team. And I guess when I was your age, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I thought I knew everything, but I want to create some curiosity today with you all about the things that you don't yet know. I do believe that we all should continue learning our whole lives, and you're all in the best place to just absorb stuff, right? To learn much faster. Old guys like Kevin and I, we take a long time for us to learn things, right? Things are already so full in here. So I wanted to create a bit of curiosity about things and give you some ideas to go and look at and research for yourselves. What's in it for you? Learning fun facts, and maybe if you find my jokes funny, then you might get some humour. Right? Thank you. What I want from you all, what I'm hoping to make this session most engaging and most relevant and useful for you all, I want to ask you some questions, and I'm hoping that we can have a dialogue, not just a monologue. And I'm also wanting you to ask questions and look, even challenge the ideas from what you know. Right? I don't have the monopoly on everything that works here. I know things that are better and things that are not so effective,
and that's what I'm going to share today. But having a proper conversation around when does that work, how does that work, when does it not work, is also helpful. And I hope that Kevin can moderate by saying anything that's wildly out of left field. I might be a little bit controversial today. If I say anything that's wildly out of left field and doesn't, inconsistent with the curriculum here, then maybe just pull me out and say, Paul, excuse me. So this is our power start. So that you know a little bit more about who I am and what my experience is, I wanted to just introduce myself. I found the best way to do this is visually. These are my boys. I have a complex family situation, don't ask, but my boys are fantastic. They're probably the most important thing in my life. My youngest son on the left, Stuart, is serving national service right now. He's 2 months away from finishing his stint with the police force. He's avidly into esports. So I played a lot of games when I was young, and he's taking after me, unfortunately. My boy in the middle, Cameron, lives in Australia. He's a software developer for Amazon. And we talk about the most amazing, interesting topics about how a world-leading organisation does software development. So that's pretty cool. And it's also pretty cool that he decided to become a software developer. And my older boy, Sham, is pursuing a career in interior design, which is his passion. And I think everyone should all follow that passion. So first of all, I'm a dad. Second of all, I do presentations like this and hopefully share things to people that are interesting and lead them somewhere, give them some value. Thirdly, what I do, as I mentioned before, I help organisations, I help product teams to perform at their peak, right? Which means doing great, creating a great product, and doing it in such a way that everyone gets involved and that they can create something that's very high quality and also very fit for purpose to solve customer problems. Because at the end of the day, that's what software is supposed to do. We understand who the customer is and we help them to solve their problem. And taking that view of software will allow you to create distinctions that will make a difference in terms of how you actually create that software. More about that, I guess that's what we're talking about today. I like to play guitar and sing. It's kind of a hobby that more than a hobby, and then I also, once upon a time, I got a chance to represent Singapore in the sport of indoor cricket, which was never on my bucket list, but I show that picture because I got a chance to see how high-performing teams function. And business teams are no different from sporting teams. Everyone needs to be there, everyone needs to be passionate, and everyone needs to be bringing their A game. So that's a little bit background about myself. I do believe that you can be good at more than one thing in life. But specialising is also great because I have a lot of friends who specialise in things, and they are leaders in their field, thought leaders in their field. Okay, so enough about myself. These are some of the companies I've got to work with over the last 5 years, and got some insights into what they do that makes a difference. I wouldn't consider all of these companies to be world-class in terms of their software development practices, but I've done what I can. I do particularly want to talk about Amazon today because they are a disruptor and they are a company that has created, I guess, a lot of fantastic practices around doing things that work. And I'm sure everyone here is a customer of Amazon. Is everyone's a customer of Amazon? Anyone never used Amazon, never bought a product from Amazon? Never? Okay. Well, you can see they've got most of the market share. Right. So, who here is an end user? Can you put up your hands if you're an end user? Any end users in the room? Fantastic. Everyone should have their hand up because everyone has one of these, right? One of these. And you have lots and lots of apps that you cannot live without. So you're an end user. So do you like Apple or do you like Amazon? We're not getting into that religious argument. But as an end user, I would suggest, even at the tender age, right, the age that you all are, that you will know what differentiates a good experience, a good user experience from a lousy user experience. Is it an okay assumption for me to make? Great, thank you. So my question to you all is, and I want to turn this into a bit of a discussion. We'll form some teams in a moment. We'll turn this into a bit of a discussion. What are some of the apps? What are 2 to 3 apps that you really like using, that you found the user experience to be fantastic? Now, you can start this as an individual exercise. I've passed out some post-it notes. Maybe just capture some ideas on a post-it note. I'll give you guys 1 minute to do that. Write down some names of apps that you love. I have a timer here, so time box. Write down some names of apps that you love. It's okay to do this as a group activity. You can discuss with your neighbour.
Here,
There'll be an exam at the end
here
of the
are the
day.
best apps. Yo, give me a shit pen. Yeah. Oh. Feel like I see this
Names
board.
already?
Here are the best apps. Swipe shot.
Half a minute left. Please put 3 names on the post-it notes. If you don't have post-it notes, please share. Thank you for taking it.
Name all the date apps. Friendster.
Okay.
My VPN.
So,
What VPN? My VPN. Fuck that. Put
then
it
I
in
ask you to finish up on the conversation that you're having, and
What is my VPN?
I'd like to hear some
Like your
people
VPN? It's a
who
VPN app.
are willing to share about what apps they've written down. And as
Son,
you
I
share
have
that
been
information, I'd also like you to think about 2 or 3 characteristics that make
It's for the group.
that
Pass
application
the
great
group.
in your experience, in your user experience.
Facebook
Okay,
for
start
everyone.
with the team at the front with your questions. Now, what do you have written down? Google Chrome. Okay, tell us what you like about Google
I edit
Chrome.
yours.
And for the others who may want to listen, might have some similar ideas here. Wonderful. Can you elaborate on why it's so wonderful? It's sorry, I missed that. This was it. Okay. Oh, tab management. What? And the UI is great. Okay, so it's got a great UI and it's got you can manage multiple searches and so on. Is that what you mean? Okay, great. Thank you, team. Thanks to the team at the front. Okay, can we get some info from the team over here in the back? What's the back? What's written down? Which one? Reddit settings. Oh, Reddit. Okay, so what do you like about Reddit?
Reddit app sucks.
UI.
Reddit?
What in particular is good about Reddit UI?
Reddit more like red shit.
Not right or wrong answer. It's your It's user-friendly. Okay, we have a user-friendly UI on Reddit.
Everything's so small.
Maybe I'm going to go to the other side here.
Balance. Oh. AI. Alan, you forgot about AI study.
Go ahead.
Because
Why do you like Singapore?
it's so easy to use, it centralizes authentication over a large range of government apps and websites. And for the end user, all you need to do is scan the QR code. And everything that the
fucking assholes,
website needs
No, she got say she use ChatGPT mah. She's not shy to say it.
Fill out forms every time.
Yeah, but at least I cover up. You just drag and drop the PDF. Give me a feedback on it.
So the centralization, the convenience, and the security.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So have you thought about applying for a job like that?
Yeah. I was like
Good, good. Okay, so we got 3 apps. We've got Google Chrome, we've got Reddit, and we've got ThinkPass. Is there anyone else who wants their app to be represented in this conversation but didn't get an opportunity?
AI study.
Yep. Which one? Which app?
AI study.
AI
Study.
study.
Yeah.
AI study. Okay, this one I catch no more. So please tell me more about
It's a notes app.
It's a notes app.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's good about it?
I think it's quite revolutionary.
Go on.
It helps with students. It helps students to study.
No? Okay.
Yeah, and that's it.
He's shaking his head. You don't have consensus in the team? Or?
I think it's quite controversial.
He never used it before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
He's still calling it out.
okay.
Because AI study is an iOS app, so he's an Android user. And
Okay, so if you're not on iOS, then forget about using
Yeah.
AI study.
yeah,
All right, so that's great. Thank you for sharing. So I have another question for you. What are a couple of apps that you don't like using? What are some apps that you hate? That you would do anything that's possible to avoid, but maybe you have to use it, right? So you don't have a choice. Do you need some more time to brainstorm this, or can people just call out?
MinDev ESS.
Which one?
MinDev ESS.
Because why is it so lousy?
I don't know what's that. So just
Every time the app just crash for no reason.
Okay,
You
so
can't
it's-
submit your leave.
It crashes.
Yes.
So if it's not reliable, then it's not gonna. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to.
Don't have
achieve
Mac,
your
you have
goal,
TSS.
right? What else?
What in police?
What other
How you
apps,
submit leave?
would you consider to be very
Forget what is it called. There's an app also, right? It's an app. But is it dog shit?
This is dog shit also. Dog shit,
Okay,
right?
let's
It's dog shit.
do the same approach
SPF,
here.
right?
In 10
SPF.
minutes,
It's okay actually, it's good.
30 seconds.
How come so different?
Just army.
Can you spend about 30 seconds just writing down some
It's good, but then got
generate
the back end is
some
shit,
useful data for this discussion?
I was can't even submit leave.
What's an app that you consider
Yeah, I was
to be
thinking
very
to submit
lousy?
and then it crashed.
You just tell your officer you go on leave, then you say oh. Oh, then just submit whenever you can. That's the matter. Yeah. Whenever the app is out.
Okay. So, what do you have? Slack. Okay, can everyone hear? Slack. Why Slack? What's so lousy about Slack? So it's not so much about the app, it's about why you use it. Okay.
Not
So
too
it
much.
just has a negative
okay.
connotation.
Yeah, what is this for?
Is there anything else about Slack that? Because me, I
SMA, right? This is the details one. Oh. Damn, it's like that.
This is not my brainstorming exercise, so I don't want to insert myself into this exercise. What else do we have? What's a lousy app? These folks over here, they love Reddit. So you're not fans of Reddit. Why is Reddit not a great experience for you? Slow. So that it used to be more integrated with third-party apps, and now it's not, which will often represent degradation of functionality to make it
Hey, who say watch
Yeah,
porn?
and why do you think they did that?
Forget.
Because they want to maximize their revenue.
Okay, you say watch porn. You say watch porn. You or Malcolm? I
Okay, one more lousy app from this side.
Yes, study. Say it, recording.
Oh, wait, let me think. TBS? Okay, good. The commercial app. Tell us more.
Damn, controversial.
There's a
You're not coming back here already.
What happens if it was lousy and you really don't know what to get into? Web pages, you're not into web pages. Okay, so now I understand. So you have the app, you download the app, and then you click on the button, and then it takes you to a web page. As always, someone's been lazy to have their other. Okay, great. Okay, so this activity was always going to be an experiment, right? And the experiment, the hypothesis of the experiment is that the information that you share is going to lead to me talking about my points, okay? But I'm gonna make that bridge for you. I'm going to make that connection for you anyway, right? So all the apps that you mentioned are things that have evolved over time. And they've either evolved based on, do we really understand the users and what they want? Or do we have some other way of building our app and evolving our app? The Reddit example is a really good one, okay? So we have something that works, right, for the community of users, and then Reddit decided to do something different with that, which wasn't customer oriented, it was more financially oriented. Yeah? A lot of the time, when people are building software, it's done without a lot of consultation of users. It's done in a vacuum, right? Like, for example, somebody creating an app where the user interface just looks like a website, and I'm assuming that it's not very functional. It's not very, doesn't result in a nice, convenient, easy to use experience for the user. And the point that I want to make here is there are 3 truths about developing software apps. 3 truths about the requirements aspect of it. Now, Kevin and I had an interesting conversation in the taxi on the way here, and it was all about separating requirements from design. Now, if we don't separate requirements from design, what will happen is if we sit down with somebody and they're telling us their problem, and we're trying to think of, well, okay, what would the software look like to solve that problem? We're not really listening to their problem. If we separate the requirements from the design, it means that we will deliberately take time and effort to understand, to listen to document, and to validate the requirements of that app which is going to solve their problem, right? But we need to understand what the problem is first. There's been so many instances, since large-scale software projects, right, started to become popular, in the last 50, 60, 70 years. There's been so many cases where something has been delivered which actually doesn't solve the problem at all, and then 6 months or a year it's scrapped, and millions of dollars have been spent on failed software implementations. So we need to understand what problem are we trying to solve first. Then we can start to figure out what the solution is. Now, when you're sitting down with somebody and listening to their requirements, okay, or their business problem, or you're thinking about, I might develop an app at home in my spare time, which is always a good thing to do, right? Because you could be the next Minecraft, or you could be the next Flappy Birds, or Candy Crush, or one of those things, right? I feel like sometimes when I go to the internet and I see all these success stories about software, I feel like I wasted my life. I should have gotten that at home and done software development in my spare time instead of playing guitar and playing cricket. But that's another story. Now, when you sit down and listen to the user about their requirements, there's 3 things that you're going to discover. One is, it's impossible for them to tell you everything that they need in one conversation. When you get out into the workforce and maybe you're involved in software projects, you'll be given an opportunity to meet with users and sit down and talk about their requirements, okay? If you're involved with business analyst or business analysis or design. And the contact with the users is always limited. It's always limited to 1 or 2 sessions. Unfortunately, that's never enough communication in order to really understand. So we have to make a lot of assumptions. And that's a problem, because the more assumptions we make in our tech world, okay, the more we'll end up delivering a product that doesn't solve their problem. Okay? So we have to take an iterative approach to developing our products, meaning that the requirements conversation is ongoing. That's the first thing. Second thing is whatever requirements that you do gather are guaranteed to change. And this is why prototyping is so important. User tells you what they want, you think, oh yeah, okay, I understand how to solve that. You go away, you put together a wireframe, you put together a mock-up, go and show it to them, and they say, well, yeah, that was kind of what I wanted last week, but now I need something else. So I need something on top of that. So their environment is going to change quite frequently, quite dynamically. So we need to be able to address that, take that into account. And then the third one is there will always be more to do than time and money will allow. So we just have to focus on the must-haves and the should-haves, and the nice-to-haves will have to wait. And sometimes nice-to-haves right now might become must-haves, 6 months or a year from now. Okay. So far so good. Does it make sense? Are these things you already knew? Am I
Yes.
teaching you something new here, or is it
No.
you didn't know?
I said I really knew.
You already knew. Good, good. Okay, so I'm validating what you already know. Okay, from a
The validating phase.
real world perspective. Good. Okay, so
So
then
first part can
how
we teach us?
do we
I say loudly. Yeah.
solve these problems?
When you say?
How do we take these facts into account and be able
Say
to
him
do
last time.
something which is effective?
Is that
Um,
No, I don't. Oh, it's not. Kena.
So we need to be able to
Volume.
make sure that
Who's that? Is that volume?
we can start by building something
Oh.
when we don't know the
This
full
one?
extent of
Where
what
the
it is.
mention right? 10001.
Yeah? I want to talk today about an
Is it one
MVP,
zero
a
one?
minimum viable product, and a minimum viable product.
That is
I think
SDLC.
it's an understood term, but I hope that we can agree on what's a working definition for MVP today. You understand that requirements are meant to be discovered and not proceeding with until all requirements are gathered, which would mean never starting.
Oh, I
So
bet this is the.
I
least
did a lot of
Cockburn.
projects, did a lot of software projects using the waterfall model.
The Cockburn thing. Yeah.
It didn't handle change well. So we had to go back and keep changing things, and we ended up spending more money than the original budget. In hindsight, it wasn't the best way to develop those projects or develop those products. I did
Bro, I know him.
quite a few
Winston Roy.
projects in my IT, my software development days where we used prototyping. We used an iterative approach. We usually exceeded the budget. We usually spent more money than we should have, but the problem was the people who allocated the budget didn't really understand the business model, so they had to spend more money, right? Which is usually a good thing. Yeah. And then, lastly, if we look at what is happening today in the IT world, there's still a lot of reliance on the waterfall. And even this guy, Winston Royce, who is largely credited with publishing the waterfall back in the
Application is
1970s, he said this is coming from a project management perspective. It was developed using best practice in engineering and construction as a basis for that. And what we're building here is virtual products. We're not building buildings. We're not building power plants. We're not manufacturing something. We're creating something which is virtual, and it's a lot easier to change it. It's a lot easier to come build it. It doesn't cost a lot.
They can see
It
that.
doesn't have the
Huh?
same level of risk.
Okay, yes, I know.
So
Okay.
I can tell you from
Can I do this?
my own experience that usually
That's what I think.
using a waterfall to develop a software product is a bad idea. And the reason why it's a bad idea is because we know that the requirements are going to change. We know that the requirements are never known up front. Yeah? So using that structure, and even if you go on the internet and you look for Royce's final model, it's very complicated and it looks much more like it.
Oh yeah, it looks so fair.
So that's the first thing. We need to be able to build a product intuitively. Even if we can build a roadmap and we know what it's going to look like 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, we don't know. Technology can change, customer requirements can change. You don't know what the future holds. Alright, so there's some other benefits to this. If we know that users and customers can't imagine or envision everything that they want, then showing them frequent incremental versions of their product is going to help us to have the right conversation with them, so we understand them better. Right? Remember, developing a product is a collaboration. It's not something that, and this is some of the dysfunctions that happen in organisations, that business users throw requirements over the wall. Right? We get one line and say, oh, create a function that does this, right? Do credit card authorization, right? Do PayPal authorization, and some of those requirements, rightfully so, might be very static, but we still need to understand where that requirement comes from. Okay, so having an iterative approach allows us to then apply the principle of extended attack. And it actually reduces risk. If we know that this product, at some point, maybe after 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, if we know this product is not viable, we should just stop building it. We shouldn't, continue to build something that isn't necessarily going to actually, be used. It's just a waste of money. And then we can take those funds and use them on something else. Okay, and the third problem here, there will always be more to do. There's always more requirements than time and money will allow for. It means we have to prioritize. Now, do you all get to learn about project management? Is project management one of the subjects? It is.
Oh yeah, I think you have to do it.
Yep. Okay. So if you learned about project management,
They have to do it,
learned
right?
about the triangle.
Oh yeah, I will make them do it.
We call it the iron triangle.
Oh, we don't know that.
Haven't learned that? Okay, I'll give you a quick lesson. Okay, so in project management, success is measured by the constraints. And the constraints are time,
Hey,
cost,
Kevin,
and
say,
scope.
I teach you this.
So if
Last
we've
week.
built a
No, I don't know. Imagine you actually
requirements
thought
document,
this was in last week.
okay, nice neat document that's got all the requirements in it, and that defines the scope of our project. I'm talking about a software project here, and we pass it to the users, we pass it to the developers, and we say you've got 6 months to build this product, and you've got $500,000. Right? What do you think is going to happen?
It's not
Sounds
really.
easy, right? Because a month after this, the users are going to come back and say, oh, by the way, with the things that we told you last month that we wanted, we actually don't need them, we need something else now. Our priorities have changed. Oh, and we want some additional requirements. So, trying to fit a product development initiative neatly into a triangle that's constrained by time, cost, and scope will either blow the budget, blow the timeline, okay, or it will result in a product which is so compromised because the project manager and the team, and you've got to understand a little bit about human nature here. If success in my job means staying within the triangle, I'll do whatever I can to resist the changes, the business changes, okay? This is what I've been asked to do, this is the amount of money, this is the amount of time, this is the team that I have. We'll do our level best to build this product, even if the product is fundamentally of no use. Yeah, so these are some of the dysfunctions that happen in organisations. So, summary of all this, okay, without being too cynical, is project management will almost never result in a fantastic product, a fit for purpose product, because we're measuring the wrong things. If we're measuring the amount of money we're spending, we're measuring the, right, staying in compliance with the requirements, and we're measuring the timeline, then we'll always fail. It's useful if you can build a building, yeah, or do something, building a physical product, but not a software product. Now,
Get cut.
so
Attack.
what about the costs? Because that's what leaders and managers will say. They'll say, look, we don't have an unlimited amount of money here. And the response to that challenge is the best software products should fund themselves. So some of the products that you mentioned today, DBS banking. So think about, I mean, maybe this is going too far back, but think about a time when internet banking wasn't, there was mobile banking wasn't a thing, right? And so, one of the banks would have rolled out a mobile banking product, and that would have revolutionized the customer experience. Okay, that's a competitive advantage. Now every bank must have a mobile banking product, so it allows us to compete, right? Because it's a requirement from our customers to have that. Okay, but that product should result in cost savings or should result in additional revenue or additional customer satisfaction. So that product should justify itself. So we might end up categorizing software products into two areas. One is things which are internal and saving money for an organization, or things which are external and either satisfying our customers, okay, or creating convenience, solving a problem for our customers. But in either case, the budget should be self-sustaining for that product. And mobile banking products get sunsetted, don't they? After a while, I think we might be on the third generation now of the different like banks in Singapore, UOB and OCBC and DBS. They might be on their third generation of mobile banking products because the technology choices they made, the user interface was starting to look dated, and they felt like it's better to throw that product away rather than try to continue to enhance it, right? Using dated technology. Okay? So products don't last a lifetime, but even the product life cycle should be longer than 6 months to a year. Any questions about this?
Understand?
Okay,
Understand?
let's continue.
What's the aim trying to?
Oh,
Could I ask a question about that?
yes.
How do you define value in a value-driven approach?
Okay, great question. How do you define value? So things like ThinkPass. If you weren't using ThinkPass, what would you be using? Before ThinkPass, do you remember before ThinkPass? Or
I don't remember what we used before SingPass anymore.
I see.
so
The separate
Yeah,
websites.
that's definitely type of information.
that's one thing with the not having the my info. But before ThinkPass, if you want to log into any government, single government web,
This guy got SingPass, PR
website,
can
you have
PR.
to use your own.
He lived
Probably
26 years ago.
IC,
He's older than
you
I.
have a password attached to that.
He lived 26
some
years.
of it wasn't through IC, it might have been something else, it might have been
cannot
email
ever-
address.
No.
But it was fragmented. It wasn't a single sign-on approach, which means you have to remember what was the password, right? So
Wait,
just
26
being
years is
able
still
to
PR.
use a centralized authentication process
I don't know.
with a QR code
He naturalized.
is a
Ask him
huge
later.
saving of time.
Ask him.
It
Ask him another
also,
question. Are you Singaporean?
there's benefits in
Or
terms
PR?
of, in terms of those different ministries, those different government
Well, not-
ministries
don't talk to me.
having a service that they can utilize.
Biography.
Yeah, so does that answer your question? That that's one example of value, right? Making it more convenient for the user,
Huh,
making it more
sounds good.
secure for the user. Yeah. What's some other definitions of value that you have, that you would have as a user? Because I can put the question back to you all as end users.
Value.
Yeah.
As in like
What does
the
value mean?
attributes of the app.
Like, for example,
The speed.
speed. Yeah. How quickly does it? You know, you're doing a search. I guess you'll use ChatGPT here,
Oh, of
or
course
some
not.
other generative app. No, not allowed.
No,
No.
we don't.
So my experience with ChatGPT is if I give it a simple question, it'll come back straight away, right? If I ask it to write a poem about something, right? About, such and such, like something complex, something very esoteric. It will sit there, it will generate poem lines, right? Poem verses very slowly, right? So having it come back more quickly is also an example of in better value. Yeah. What else? What else would represent more value to you?
Intuitiveness.
Yes. Okay. So the thing is easy to use. How about lowering cost?
Yes.
Okay. You want to catch a taxi, you get a Comfort, or you get a Grab, or you get a Gojek, or what are the other ones?
Nothing on that.
My kids use all the newfangled ones. I just stick with Comfort usually. So being able to get something, get the service with the lowest possible cost. Yeah. So it just translates into things that customers would appreciate.
So I'd like to extend that question because my actual interest comes after it. Now, given that there are many things that customers would want and can do better with, how do we decide then to further develop on which? How do we decide on what to develop on next? Since it's a value adding, it's an iterative approach, and customers want everything good, better, and the best. So, given that there's that flexibility in deciding the features to build in, and that there are so many routes, so many different value adds to a product, how do you prioritize what adds the value you would most like?
Okay. Great, really good question. Okay, so one alternative that you can consider here is to ask them what's most important to them. If you have a dialogue with your customers, you can run a survey or have a focus group, or you can even build things into your app and test it. We have a hypothesis that customers will want a cheaper product than our competitors. Customers will want faster delivery than our competitors. I use Amazon Fresh, right? I buy my groceries from Amazon Fresh. Not just because my son works on Amazon Fresh, right? Because that's the part of Amazon that he's in, right? But the reason I use Amazon Fresh, the other reason I use Amazon Fresh is because they can deliver to me within the same day. They can deliver my groceries within the same day. Now, when I started using it about 1.5, 2 years ago, it was like the next day. It was at least 24 hours, and now it's down to 3-4 hours. So I'm like, that's a huge convenience factor for me. Yeah. So it's one of the things we can do is just understand our customers better, right? And look, you might end up having, like you mentioned just now, you might end up having all these different ideas, right? About what our customers might like. And we also have to prioritize those things because we can't do everything all at the same time. So we'll always want to deliver the low-hanging fruit first, right? Deliver the things that are going to get us the best ROI, right? Because software products are commercial in nature. By the way, there's things I don't like about Amazon Fresh. Like, they're always out of stock for many, many items. Yeah, so that's an inconvenience. I wish they could be better at their inventory control. I'll give him that feedback. I'll give my son that feedback if someone speaks. Great. Okay. Good question. Does that was also a question in other people's minds as well. So we have to be intelligent about this process. Yeah? We have to be questioning and creating hypotheses and then asking ourselves, how can we take a scientific approach? How can we take an experimental approach to test these hypotheses? So before you ask that question, we were about to do an activity. And we need to distribute some materials. I'd like you to form teams of around about 5 people.
Is that
This is a team. We give you 3 people. 4 people is good.
Oh.
5 people. So form teams of 3 to 5 people. And then once you've formed your teams, can I have one person from each team come down and collect the materials? Okay. We're going to give each team 2 sets of markers and 2 sets of paper.
This is the pen. Yeah, this is the signal. Then for one time destroy it. Kamu ni taking for our group? I got not a group.
I think for his group, they asked whether you want.
Oh. Take one paper pass down. Take one. Take 2 pass down. Take 2 pass down. I don't know. Take one paper pass down. Then send looking fine. Got a fresh cut. Oh.
Okay, you got one more set of markers, turn once, turn twice. Remember they are. Okay. I'm about to give you the instructions for a team activity. And there's a time limit on this activity. Yeah? Now, I'm not going to say that your teams are competing against each other, but I have a hunch that you're going to be competitive about it. Just from my experience, right? So it's not a competition, although it's also not a collaborative activity. So you need to work within your teams to produce a product. And I'm going to share with you the specifications of the product, and then I'm going to ask you to self-organize within your team to build that product. Okay? You have all the materials you need. You have paper and you have marker pens. Yeah? Does anyone have any questions? No questions. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Here is the requirements for the product. And the product is a summer meadow. Okay? So these are the requirements. And you have 3 minutes to complete this product. When you're finished, hold up your finished product. And if you
got blue.
don't finish
I got green.
I'm going to ask you to
See, my green is useless AF.
Okay, your time
Green.
starts now.
Green is the grass, Grass, man. Grass for the on top. The cow will be standing on what? Oh. I just go on one table or paper or what? Yeah, I think so. Oh, you use all this. Use this. Okay, I draw the grass, you draw the flowers. Okay. I feel like it's gonna be like something stupid. Like, notice how everyone. Cow. Okay, I draw the sun. One sun to the right with 5 sunbeams. Sun is red. Oh, that's the loudest. 3 birds.
Very nice flower you did.
2 cows. So you draw 5 cows. Can draw red flowers. 13 red flowers. Hey, I don't know. This is I do that. Okay, I'll leave you. You draw the birds, you draw the birds, I draw the flowers.
Wait, how many cows? 4 only, ah?
5.
1 cow, 1 cow.
1 cow is 5. I only draw the flowers.
Okay. I draw what? Bird, ah?
Yeah.
Wait, your laptop.
Working on two
How many birds? 3 birds in the middle. Teresa in the upper left corner. Upper left corner. I'm done.
Okay, settled.
Okay, I'm done.
How many cows? 1 cow only, right?
Done, ah? Done, right?
Oh, it's 2 cows with 4 black spots.
Should we label? We put legend, legend.
Okay. Wait, there's no green. Green is useless.
Wait.
No green for the grass. Come from this one. Hey, where you see grass, bro? You got flower, means got grass, bro. 2, 4, 10, 12. Fuck, I don't want. 5 blue flowers. Hey, yo!
Wait, flower. Draw a legend.
Sun what color? You draw 15 blue flowers, but they aren't doing that.
Okay, done.
completed products to the front. You can write a team name on the product if you like.
Sign.
So you can appreciate between them. Each team just submit one.
There you go.
Okay. Does it have a team name?
I put our signatures here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The first team. Go to the first market.
Oh, you know blue.
Huh?
You know blue.
It's fine. First to market advantage.
Oh, MVP.
Yeah. Huh? The fuck? Serious got no legend.
So bad.
Everyone needs a help in the implementation.
Just simple HCI.
Thank you. Cheesy cows or pigs? Okay, thanks for that.
What do you think they put in there? I think it's supposed to work together.
Oh. Competition promotes
We
efficiency.
have all of the.
You get double the points later.
Alright. I'm going to show these to you one by one. Okay? And it's not for evaluation, it's just for observation purposes, okay? So and then we'll see how well we've done. Okay, so this one is across 2 different pieces of paper.
Damn.
You see this one? Okay. I was hoping for more cows here. We don't have enough cows. And the flowers, some of the flowers are growing from the ground and some of the flowers are from the sky. Okay, you got the sun, that's good. Okay. This one is all, is it, oh no, is it, are these together? Sleepy owl? Oh no, that's the next one. Okay, 2 cows, birds, flowers, some bird, oh no, 1 bird, sorry. Got eliminated. Okay, that's the second one. This one I think is together. I think this team, if they had more time, they probably would have have, or maybe they didn't have the right colour markers, I don't know. Alright, so that one.
Lack of skill.
Okay, I think this one is all together as well. Interesting, if I had given you 3 pages, would you have done it like in cross, like a widescreen? If I'd given you one, would you fitted it all on one? Interesting. The assumptions that we made here. This one, we've got a lot of cows here. Oh yeah, okay, the sun.
No, not that nice.
Right hand side. This is the goat team. Your goat team. Goat means greatest of all time, right?
Yes.
Okay. The cows are.
Cow.
It's the idea of a cow. Just as a word with some dots. I think this one's for another team, right?
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Okay, so a lot of enthusiasm. Okay, so flat land here, everything is all in the same kind of area. All right.
Oh, yes, a legend. He doesn't care.
This one has used as much white space as possible. Yes. And this one is separate, right? Okay, cows are all at the bottom, ladders on the right hand side. Okay. And this one has got an attachment. God damn. Alright, give yourselves a round of applause.
You watch this shit,
Now,
wasting my time.
You act like quite useful.
Huh?
You act like quite useful.
what the user really wanted
Oh.
was something akin to a summer meadow, right? And there's details here that are not included, isn't it? The picture tells you things that the specification did not. And this is the problem. This is the problem with using written down documentation alone as the basis for requirements. It is a very poor way of ensuring that we have communication and alignment. This is one. The reason I chose this picture is that I think it satisfies the specification. Yeah? So technically it's correct. It's also a little bit blurry. There's another picture as well, which I also like. It doesn't fully satisfy the specification, but it does give you a very nice, like an image of a summer meadow.
What is the legend?
I think there's an extra scope here.
Is it blue?
There's a scope
Why is there only one
here
color?
to share, right? But at least, you know, if the user gave you this, when you say a picture paints 1,000 words, then you would have a better understanding of what's the problem that we're trying to solve here. Because usually what happens in this activity is the team put together, and by the way, you're all not sitting at tables, right? So that also works against you. But the team will normally you take the red one, I'll take the green one, you take the blue one, and we'll all just, anyhow create a different object. Right? Which will always result in Roger. Yeah, as opposed to something which is cohesive and something which is complete. Questions, observations. What did you notice about the activity? What did you notice about your team and how you approach the work? We can have some teams share.
The time, the allocated time for.
The time is not enough, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Your deadlines will always be very unrealistic. You have to push back on that. Yeah, so the time is not enough. By the way, in the original version of this, the timing is 1 minute. So I thought, I should be kind to you all today and give you 3. But it's still very, right? It's very ambitious. What else? What else did you notice as you were doing the activity?
We fulfillment of the requirements individually. So we have to do all the blue flowers first, the craft petals,
Yes.
and then one thing at a time.
Okay.
And then the output space.
It is a divide and conquer approach. Yeah. Which is nothing wrong with the divide and conquer approach, as long as we're keeping an eye on what each other's doing. We're not working in the back. Yeah. What else did you notice about your team's approach to doing the exercise? Any other things? else was interesting about your team's approach versus the result? Go on.
My teammate thinks that the sun is green color.
Green color. Oh, this one. So this is a point of contention, right? So I gave you 4 markers. I didn't give you a yellow or an orange one. So you have to choose, right? What color are we going to make the sun? It's never going to be the right color. So it has to be, some other color. Yeah. So there, again, there's no right or wrong. The specification didn't tell you what color the sun should be. So that's going to create complexity as the team discusses, right?
Okay.
And so, what do you think the user wants?
I put
Do
this,
they want
I
a
say
green
this is my
sun? Do
notes
they
so
want a
far
red
for
sun?
the
Do they
lecture.
want us to mix the colors or?
Okay.
Yeah. So good, good observation.
Oh, you
Okay.
sacrifice.
So the key takeaway from this is
Oh.
that we really do have to sit down and
Oh, just is more so
have a discussion,
Oh,
have
yes.
an
But it's quite
ongoing
good. Yeah.
conversation with somebody who represents the user. Okay, it may be the users themselves, that's the best case scenario, or it might be a product owner, or it might be some marketing department that represents the users, that kind of knows what the users want. Okay, or they have a good idea, have a good understanding. Yeah.
I sent you then you say Munir's notes.
Oh, I forward.
Any? I don't know. Let's continue. Okay. So the other thing that you might have experienced as we did this was something that was originally coined or originally created in 1967 by a guy called Melvin Conway.
Okay.
And he said, any organization that designs a system will inevitably produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. Now, you're only in simple teams, right, of 3 to 5 people, but you can see that in some cases, there's a very fragmented approach, right, to doing the work. Okay, like a divide and conquer approach. Or in some cases, the team members might have discussed and taken an integrated approach. Now, even though this was mentioned in 1967, it has been something which has held true for, ever since that time, right? What's that? Is that 56 years? More than 50 years. So, organizations put together teams. They either put together cross-functional teams or they put together multiple teams, right? They put a developer team, tester team, okay, architecture team, and so on, and they're all kind of indirectly communicating with each other. And the result will be a product that mirrors the organizational structure or the architecture of the team that put this together.
This is about
It's uncanny, but
Communication.
It's very true. And an example
How we
of this,
communicate
and
can be
by
seen
the
in
way,
our
if you
product.
go on the internet and you look up Conway's Law and you
Quite
click on
interesting.
images, you get all kinds of weird and wonderful configurations. Here is an example of different designers who are geographically separated from each other, who came up with a system that it was integrated within their own co-located group, but it was fragmented throughout the larger product. And I reflected on this recently. I traveled to Malaysia quite frequently. I flew to KL. We have some clients up there. And if anyone's ever travelled on the I was going to say MRT system, but it's not really an MRT system. They've got all these different rail systems in KL. And the main feature of the rail systems is that they all function somewhat independently of each other. So I decided
to 69.
just not to just jump in and grab this day was about 2 weeks ago. I decided I'll take the rail system. And to go from one place to another, I ended up on 3 different rail systems. Involving
Continue working until when?
5-minute walk, 5-10 minute walk to get from one rail
What's
system to
retirement
the
is
other. And I thought to myself,
Retire is like A soft one.
Those folks
Soft one.
sorry if anyone's from Malaysia, I don't mean to.
So after
offend you.
that age,
The
you can
folks
work.
in the different
You still can
government
work. Like the company
ministries in
got
Malaysia that are looking after the
the company can reject you based on
why didn't they
that
get together
reason.
and they collaborate,
Yeah, possibly.
right, to create
But I think if you
something
hit
like
69, then they confirm won't.
because honestly,
They won't ask you to
the
work
Singapore
unless you
MRT
just
system
like, you
is
know.
world class.
But that's fucked though, they keep
I
raising
don't know if
the
it's
age
true,
because
but I'm saying now,
Because
you know, when I first got here,
because you
there was a
can't
red
get
line
your-
and a green line.
if you
And
keep
now we've got all
raising
the
a
different colours.
Or the CPF.
can't get your no
The one thing
the
that
retirement
occurs
bonus.
to you
Oh.
when you travel on the MRT system in Singapore is as the customer, right? You feel like, okay, I can't always know where I'm headed and I always know where to go next, right? I'm not so confused about even switching lines. And to be fair, the distance you have to walk is a bit far, but it's it's done. I think they've done as much optimizing and they've created a very very consistent user experience over the many different lines. Okay, which is a deliberate result as opposed to the KL example. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're thinking about, and these are, look, in the future when you're involved in real world software projects, you might not have any control over the organizational structure. You might be working with vendors. Outsourcing became popular in the 90s and it's still popular. Oh, we just give these software requirements to our vendor and hope that they can create a great product. It's only going to happen if we actually deliberately decide how we're going to communicate. Oh, who's seen this before? Okay. It's funny, but it's so true. And the problem here is that we have too many people in the chain of communication. Did you ever play at school? Did you ever play that game called broken telephone? Where you sit in a circle and you whisper something, right? One person says something to the next, and the next. And this is how, again, this is another dysfunction of requirements, right? Requirements communication in organizations. We put so many layers, okay, of abstraction between the users and the end, right? Sorry, the end users and the people who are developing the product. One of the people that I would encourage you to follow is a guy called Henrik Nieberg. And Henrik Nieberg is an expert in product development, software product development. He was one of the guys who helped develop, or he was there consulting for Spotify when they started to develop their Spotify product. He said, if you want to create a great product, reduce the gap as much as possible between the users and the developers. He also got involved with Minecraft. He was working to develop some of the parts of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Minecraft. Does anyone know the story about Minecraft? Okay, another great example of a very, very highly successful product. Was the first implementation of Minecraft was developed and delivered within 6 days. It was developed by a team of 2 people.
Not so.
And they set up a user feedback mechanism. They said, okay, how can we make this product better? And so they took on the user feedback and they prioritized all the requirements and they put as much as they put into the product. And so the guy who thought up the idea about Minecraft, he didn't do it to make a lot of money, but in 15 months, his small company made $80 million. Yeah. And he said, you know what, I actually want to, I don't want to run a big company, I just want to be a creator, I just want to be a software developer. So he sold Minecraft to Microsoft for $2 over $1 billion. Yeah. So this is the future that you will have ahead of you if you decide that it's one thing for you. Go ahead.
Last one, I thought you
I missed what you said, sorry. He went off the deep end. Okay, I wasn't aware of that chapter of the story.
I think it's like his life is quite fun.
Sorry to hear that. So, moral of the story is I wouldn't recommend that you write software to get rich. Write it because of the satisfaction. Yeah. But Minecraft is still around, so his product will, will go down as a. I don't know. I missed what you said.
This guy's a Minecraft nerd.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's still ongoing.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's a great example of a product which was built using these
I don't think so.
communicate with them, understand the users, understand what they want. And the other aspect that I want to get into in the time that we have remaining is how do we iterate, how do we create, how do we create our software in an iterative way. Anyway, so I want to spend some time talking about how do we capture these ideas and what's the sequence of the different, I guess, approaches or methods or artifacts that we can use. So high on the list is to understand our users. Who are our users? And you find that there's some of the best software products in the world, right? The ones that we all use, like the social media products, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, maybe previously, right? Not so much anymore. They all invest a lot of time and effort to understand their users.
I want to see the
Creating
detail.
user personas. And a user persona is simply a fictitious
It's basically he
person,
like
not a real
no.
person. It can be.
he keep going parties all
We
these
just want to
like
understand
he
who is this person, we get to know them better. How old are they? What do they like doing? Are they,
cause like he don't know what to do now because he's
introvert
like
or
too rich I
extrovert?
guess.
Are they,
I don't know.
are they, what are their habits?
That's crazy,
Okay?
yeah.
And how are they likely to interact
sad
with
too.
our product? Yeah. So user persona, and again, as I
When he
go
used
through
to
these
like,
things, there might
I think I don't know
be
whether
things
he's
that
still
you've
doing
seen
now,
before.
but
Is it familiar to you?
he hosts a lot of
User
parties
personas?
in
Okay,
LA.
okay.
Right?
So we don't necessarily need to spend a lot of
Yeah.
time
And basically,
talking
like,
about how do we create user
You know,
personas.
just have
Unless
people say
have
like he keep making
questions
like fake
about
friends
it.
or like fake
Does
connections.
anyone have any questions about user personas?
But I don't know. I mean, you never know his life what. So he's not from the media.
Yeah, people already know.
Wow.
So hand in hand with user personas, we also want to understand the customer's journey. Where do they start? So if someone comes to an e-commerce website, yeah, like Lazada or Shopee or Amazon, how do they get there? Are they following a link from somewhere, or do they just go to the app, okay, or the website? Right? Are they just searching indiscriminately, or are they comparing products? How do they get to the point where they make their purchase? Okay, and how can we make that journey as simple and as deliberate for them as possible, so that we can get the value? And we talk about value for users is convenience, low cost, and fulfillment. The value for the company running this app or this e-commerce platform is how do we maximize our revenue? How do we sell more products? Yeah. So the value depends on who we're talking about with stakeholders. Yeah. But again, understanding the journey, understanding how people get from point A to point B. Yeah. And as a team, as a software development team, including users or representatives of users, what we should invest time in is mapping out those customer journeys using a technique which is called story mapping. Story mapping is. Oh, okay. So this is I'm giving a sneak preview, okay, of story mapping. So the guy who popularized story mapping his name is Jeff Patton. Okay, Jeff, Jeffpatton. I would really strongly encourage you to look up his stuff. And story mapping is one of the most, what I would say, when myself and my team members were working with software development teams and helping them to create, right, the concepts for their product is one of the most complete and comprehensive techniques to be able to understand the work that we need to do. Okay, so we start with, at the top, sorry, my laser's not working anymore, but we start at the top, right, with the different users. Okay, so we know who the users are from the user personas, and then we go down to the next level, which is the journeys that the users are taking, and then underneath those journeys, then we start to understand what are the requirements, what are the different functions that we need to provide for, so that people can interact with our product and and achieve whatever objective that they want to achieve with. And so, as an ideation tool, it's extremely powerful. And what we can then do is use this to scope out all the work that needs to be done, to estimate roughly how long it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost us to develop a prototype of this product. And the other thing that we can do is we can prioritize. So you might see on the left-hand side, we've got must have, should have, could have, won't have. We've got 4 different levels of prioritization, and there's a line here. And we've made a decision that whatever is above the line will be in minimum viable product. This will be release 1 of our product. This one comes from an actual product, right, or from one of our previous clients. But hopefully you can't see all the details here, so it's not recommending non-disclosure agreements. Yeah, so that's how story mapping works. Without obviously delving too deeply into Kevin's lesson on it in the near future. Are there any questions about story mapping?
I have a question for all of you, which always bothered me every time I see this. Why do we still have a manual, not a digital board? Can anybody ask that question of Paul and see if he can answer it?
It's a really good question, actually, which I'm very, very happy to answer.
Come on, one of you. You must have thought this. One of you must have been thinking this. Come on. Say again? Are you saying you could never digitize this? Okay, I guess that's partially true. I mean, I think that could happen. But let's assume that these boards are well taken care of. Let's assume that they're not going to be screwed around with, okay? Because really, it's in no one's best interest to do that anyway.
Why is it not
But
digitized?
why are we still doing it manually? You can. There are digital boards. There are. But so many of the companies like this type of thing. Why?
It
You
promotes.
must have thought about this. This is a really, really important question. You're all supposed to be learning software engineering and stuff, so why this way?
It promotes brainstorming.
Okay, flexibility, what else?
It promotes brainstorming.
That's it. The problem is that if you think about everybody having their own digital copy, what are you missing when you're looking at your copy? Maybe not, you won't be so close, but let's say over here, you're looking at your copy, and then maybe you're talking over here on your copy. You're missing that sort of centralization or that ability to bring everybody together in one team. And that's what Paul's been talking about the whole session here is one team, a performing team. So that's the answer.
I'm really glad that you brought up this topic, Kevin, because this allows us to talk about another dimension of what we're doing here, right? Because I'm just showing you the tools or the methods This is, look, the choice to either do this in a physical room, right, on a big wall, or to do it digitally. And by the way, this tool is Miro, and there's also Mural, right? Miro became hugely popular during COVID, right? Because they were the best collaboration tools that were available. And the reason why we did this one with the team that we were working with here, the reason why we did it in Miro was two reasons. One is COVID, right? This was done in the middle of COVID. And the second one was this company was already working in distributed teams. So in one software development team, they had people from Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, all in the same team. So, and they didn't. They hardly, you know, even we started working with them during COVID, but even before COVID, they would hardly ever put people on a plane and get them physically in one room because they had developed this remote working culture. Yeah. Now, if you ask me personally, I don't like the remote working culture. I had enough of that during COVID. I want to be face to face with people. Well, we can all be face to face in the room, and we can still use the tool. Yeah, we can just have a whiteboard here. We can do some simple brainstorming, but we can still be capturing the thing in the tool. But I do agree, doing it on the wall with a whole bunch of people, right, all working, right, face to face, right, in a co-located area. It brings an element of, there's a social element, right, and there's a creative element that you get that you can't get sitting in front of the computer. And I know most of you are sitting in front of computers. Some of you might even be multitasking, right, because that's the culture of, right, of your generation. But there's so much power in focus and getting people to focus on one thing, and we'll really just delve into it very deeply. So thanks for mentioning that. Right, let's move on. I'm looking at the time here. Any other questions about story mapping? This should be, if you're involved in the software development team at any time in the future, this should become one of the most important tools in your toolkit. But it doesn't solve every problem. What we end up here with, all these yellow post-it notes, are what we call user stories. And user stories is probably the most misunderstood artifact of gathering requirements in software projects. Somehow I put the minimum viable product thing first, but that's okay. I guess what I was thinking about was that the story mapping allows us to identify what is the minimum viable product. Now, what do we need to create as a minimum to give to our end users so that they can do something, they can have an interaction with our software product which is valuable?
Let me check what are the categories.
So if you're developing an e-commerce app, what do you think needs to be included in the minimum viable product?
But I'm just guessing on that's the one.
And call out different functionality here.
Is it
Use the
under?
verb noun format, like select product. Yep.
Oh, product
Yeah.
catalog.
Okay, so display product catalog. Okay, I'm going to
Below,
use verb noun
down,
because it's
references.
action-oriented. Display product catalog. What
And
else?
I think I picked this one. Yeah.
Go to checkout. Yes. Okay. What else?
Payment.
Yeah, payment. Yeah, make payment. How many? Sorry, how are we going to pay?
How are you gonna pay?
How are we going to pay?
Yeah.
Does everyone have Payla here?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's nodding their heads. You can just- Does SOT have a deal with DBS or something? I imagine that more people will have credit cards than Payla.
Yeah.
So we might want to do a credit card payment first in the minimum viable product. Maybe Payla can be released 2 or released 3, so we can maximize our reach.
It should be
Okay,
here.
so we've shown the product
copy of
catalog.
this.
We're putting things in the. Sorry, we're going to the checkout. We're paying from the product. Anything
Yeah,
else?
Add the card.
what's the categories?
Add the product to the
These are
cart.
the categories.
Yes.
Wait, these are not.
That's about it, really, isn't it? Okay,
mean, like,
so we
that's
give
why I
them an
screenshot, but I realize
opportunity
it's
to
not.
select
I mean,
the product, and
this
then they
part-
pay for the product. And they
This
get what
part
they
is-
want. They
but
get the
the rest is
value
not.
because the product is now on the way to their house. Okay, and we got
Can you go
money.
to 413 and see
That's
what
an
they got
example of minimum viable product. Minimum viable product is not display the catalogue only.
Oh, there.
I display the catalogue and then I'm frustrated because I can't buy the product.
Trading related.
Right, so I go down the shop and I buy it from your competitor. So that doesn't represent the minimum viable product.
This is,
The minimum viable product also doesn't
The
represent
requirements.
all kinds of different payment methods because we're just testing the market, and testing the market means we just need people to have the most common payment method, which is usually a Visa card or a MasterCard.
This one.
It's not an American Express, it's not cryptocurrency, it's
You ask the
not-
guy later.
Maybe PayNow. PayNow is also becoming quite popular in Singapore. Okay, so hopefully that helps to represent minimum viable product. Now, I think I'm going to leave Henrik Nieberg's example here for another session because this one is also very, very much misunderstood about creating the skateboard first as the MVP. Because that's not going to make the users happy. But what it is going to do is it's going to find out what was on their minds, right? What was on their minds when they wanted to fundamental? What was on their minds when they wanted to know the transportation? Okay, that's a philosophical discussion for another time. User stories. Don't use user stories to capture your requirements in detail. Okay? I would suggest from my real world experience that you use something which is a little bit more comprehensive, like a use case. The use case has a great format. The use case template has a great format for creating requirements, identifying and communicating requirements with a level of precision and a level of completeness that user stories do not. Yeah. Yeah, so again, user stories, I know you've all heard of user stories, I know you've heard of use cases. They're not meant to be used as a team or they're actually meant to be used as a progression. if you like. Questions? I don't want to stretch the friendship too far, and I realise that. So I don't want to go too deeply into this. Another person that I would encourage you to look up on the internet is this guy, Alistair Coburn. Alistair Coburn is one of the co-creators of the Agile Manifesto in 2001, and he's a thought leader. He's contributed a lot to software development. He's still involved in software projects. Yeah, he's had more than 30 years of software development. Oh, there he is. Yeah, so he was in Singapore last month, and I got to spend time with him in the workshop. And yeah, I came with a lot of ideas and a lot of preconceptions, and spending time with him helped me to really understand, put everything in its right place.
Yeah.
So
Who's it?
we're getting towards
Von
the end
Neumann.
now, but I just wanted to share some real best practices here as a summary of the conversations that we've been having up until now. So, I think we've already hammered this point.
Kevin.
Okay, developing a great product is really a team sport.
Whose name is
And
Paul?
if you think about sporting teams, high performing sporting teams, everyone comes there to make the team's objective
It's all
the most
ChatGPT names.
important thing. Okay? So we have individuals coming into a high performing team and want to be a star. It's actually consistent with the team's objective. Yeah. Iteratively develop your product with iterations as frequent as you can practically adopt. Now, in commercial software development environments, the bottleneck is going to be CI/CD. Okay? It's your integration and deployment. So we have to use best practice for DevOps or DevSecOps, depending on how secure your environment is. Amazon is the thought leader in this area with tens of thousands of releases per day. They've really broken the barriers of what's possible there. Third is we need to have a conversation. And I know people who are software developers, we'd rather talk to our computer than we talk to people, but it's worthwhile doing. Okay, that's what I was like when I started. I just wanted sit at my computer and tell me what's the code, right? But we actually have to get out there and have a conversation with people. And then the right documentation to capture that conversation. When we start, when we're at the very start of an idea, we're at the concept phase, we don't have to be precise. We don't have to come up with all the test cases on day one. So we start from a conceptual perspective. Those things that I mentioned just now, user personas, user journey mapping, is all very conceptual. And then we get down into the user stories and the use cases where we can become a lot more precise so that we can have a valid testing strategy, right? So that we can develop reliable, right, usable software. And then no one requirements document covers all the needs. And unfortunately, I used to believe idealistically that you still don't need a monolithic requirements document, which we call an encyclopedia. But as we develop requirements, as we document requirements, we still need to be saving all of that in a place, right? Which becomes the, I guess, the source of truth.
Is it like the
Source
legend?
of truth for all of our requirements. Because lots of people want to go back and look at that. Auditors, right?
As a software developer, I really talk to computers.
And at the very least, we want to go back and remember what we decided about 6 months or a year ago. Any others? Anything else to add, Kevin?
Maybe just the fact that validation, verification are two things that
Yeah, definitely. And the whole cycle of doing something iteratively and inspecting and adapting helps us to, I'm not saying it covers it 100%, but it does help us to continue to know that we're on the right track. Yeah.
especially with the customer involved.
With
With the customer involvement.
Yes, exactly.
Now, may I ask a question regarding that? Ideally, how involved should a customer be?
Okay, so I haven't referred so much today to the Agile Manifesto and the Agile principles, but there's an Agile principle which suggests that users and developers should work together. Business users and developers should work together on a daily basis. In practice, I've seldom seen business users being committed enough to work together with the developers on a daily basis. But if they can be around at least every week or so, and be on, be able to be consulted, as and when we need to, because if you don't have that access, you've got to make an assumption. And your assumption, maybe 50-50, right? 50% correct assumption, 50% incorrect. If it's an incorrect assumption, you build it into the product, you show the user a week later or a month later, and they say, that's not what I told you, and then we've wasted that work. So the more frequent we can communicate with them, the less we waste, the less rework we can do, the less we waste stuff. Unfortunately, in most, again, in most organizations today, users believe that it's not my job. I just throw my requirements over the wall and you technical people, you figure it out. So there's not a lot of mutual respect going on there. But that is changing. Yeah, great question. Anything else? Any other questions? Any questions? Because we're at Q&A time.
I've got a few questions. I'm interested as someone that comes from outside our culture. I'm quite curious how you see the challenges in communicating requirements between cultures. Do you find any initial hurdles you face when it comes to integrating between cultures when it comes to communicating requirements?
Sorry. Okay, so as someone who, I'm originally from Australia, I moved to Asia in 1996. I spent 2 years in Indonesia doing software development over there for a mining company. And then I came to Singapore. I was doing another 3, 4, 5 years of software development after that. And I've done software development in Australia. was really good in Australia because the users would tell you in no uncertain terms what they thought of you and your software, which was sometimes intimidating. And then I realized that culturally I have to learn. I have to learn more sensitive or more effective ways, diplomatic ways of communicating, right, with people. I feel like I think it's important that we need to be aware of the cultural norms, especially if you end up working in a company where you're working with people in other countries in Asia. Singapore is quite open compared to, let's say, Thailand or Vietnam.
Oh, fucked up. I found the requirements.
People will just
Yeah,
report
right.
conflicts. They won't
It's
use
39.
I think
I count the requirements here 39. I have 37.
From the Western perspective,
Think ChatGPT added some.
Singapore are very quiet and very shy.
Oh, is it?
But I feel like
Which one you use? This one.
yeah, in terms of that. But
Which I use here.
if we provide ways for people to
You got how many
give
is it?
feedback,
39. Is it I never come up
without
with?
necessarily
Let me see.
having to have a
Yeah, maybe.
confrontational discussion about
No,
it,
I think I never come up
then
with.
we can be more effective.
I think I never come up with.
We are check whether it's
Okay.
It's a mistake of people in the West to say, oh, people in Asia should just be more open and willing to meet you. That's, they just don't understand politics. Yeah. I don't know if I'm properly answering your question.
Yeah, that does answer my question because from our perspective, it's we get the idea very strongly that Westerners don't understand social nuances, so they sometimes just overstep these things. So I think it's quite interesting seeing it from the other way around, where you're aware that there are social nuances to navigate around.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a very unique challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I would go so far as to, if you're working in a team, and there's maybe some of the team members are from Japan, or some of the team members are from Thailand, or one other country is actually going to study the culture of that country, so that you can meet them where they are, as opposed to expecting them to be, they should be more like me, because that's a big explanation. Yeah, so that's probably bonus information. Any other questions? I was going to come and ask you just now if you can take some photos, but we're almost at the end, right? So I don't know if you can stand the photo. Is that okay? Yeah.
Did he ask for a consent?
Yeah.
So I go back to some of my team that I've seen that.
Westerners, they don't understand the social nuances.
Best practices are requirement.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
This is regarding high-performing teams and what you feel makes people perform. So the question is, what do you look for in
What's the timer,
individuals for building a high-performing team?
Wi-Fi O2.
Be it
I don't know.
characteristics,
Doesn't make sense.
skills, personality. Are there
This
things
one was
that you
03.
look out for?
Yeah. But he was like using it. So I don't know what it's for.
Yes, and there's a whole list, there's a laundry list of those individual characteristics. But I would say anyone, I would like to be like a bit idealistic about it, say anyone has the possibility of functioning as a team player if they're willing to have a growth mindset about who they are, what they're willing to continuously learn, and how
It's
they're
always the
willing
manifest.
Yeah, correct.
to be, develop relationships with their teammates. Yeah. What is also important in developing high
So was it really in the
performance is that
manifest?
we engage people.
Oh. Yeah,
And,
visual model.
There's
Something else. I cannot
there's
remember.
three factors that will engage people to perform at their best in teams. And this is from Drive, from Dan.
Wait, so is it correct?
Right, so the three things are
Yeah, I think the
autonomy,
26.
mastery, and purpose.
Yeah, the cost check.
So if we
No, I mean, I think
put a
we can just
team
count that.
together
6.
and we realize that the people in that team have enough capability to be a little bit self-sufficient, right? Then we can make them self-organized.
26.
And giving someone letting someone organize themselves and letting a team self-organized, creates a
We got
great
13.
power because people feel like
Where is
we
Gemini?
can come up with the rules, right? You know, we can do the work in our own way, we can be flexible. The second one is mastery. If we provide people with the opportunity to continuously learn things that they're interested about, then that learning is going to translate into application on the job. And then the third one, the most important one, is purpose. So if you have a chance to work on, sorry, I missed your name, and you've asked me so many questions.
I'm Ernest.
Ernest, okay. So how would you feel if, like, next year you had a chance to work on the zinc casting? Why?
Because I think there's a lot of things that goes into the development of products like these, and a lot of considerations that are glazed over by end users. So I'm just genuinely curious how people break down great projects and large projects and make them into things that can be worked on.
Okay, that's a very technical answer. I wasn't quite expecting that answer, but would you feel like, and I'm only citing this example because you came up with this in class earlier, would you feel like a lot of job satisfaction working in acting as opposed to working in a wealth management company or working in something else? So then that would potentially be more purposeful work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can't all work on projects that are going to save the world or make the world a better place. But if we can find some purpose in the work that we do, then that is the foundation that's going to underpin, right? Underpin high-performing teams and high-performing individuals.
Thank you.
Do you have your phone so we can?
I do.
Okay, you'd like your picture taken with Paul? Come on up front. Come on up.
Can I take a Ouija first? Hang on. I'm really awful at this.
Crazy. Both of them got different ideas.
Smile.
Yo, we know
The thing is that was like,
Okay. All right.
Think so.
Come on up. Come on
Think
up.
so.